You can turn the light on whenever. God?
No, ma'am, it's me.
Bubbly? Why is it so bright? Can you knock it off with the light?
Oh, yeah.
What's up, Blub?
Can I have a pizza?
Blubbly, we literally had pizza 2 hours ago.
Oh, yeah.
Do you need anything else?
Can you make a video essay?
What? Why?
Don't make me turn the light back on.
Okay. About what?
Pizza.
Bubbly.
Mo? When go? Fine, ma'am. A game or whatever.
That I can do. And then it would cut. Before I start talking about Cronos, I want to talk about what led this video to being mostly just a review. The idea for it started as philosophizing about game reviews on YouTube through the filter of doing the work myself with Cronos. Then, after refining the idea, I realized it wouldn't work. But I could still take parts of it. So now this video is split into a review and an analysis of the game's themes as I could identify them. Initially, I was going to have a third segment talking about how the game portrays socialism in Poland during the era it's set and compare that to Poland's current-day politics. However, that was far beyond the scope of my abilities as a writer or researcher. With the video outline in place, I had another obstacle to hurdle. Ego. Specifically the lack of one. What made anything I want to say here more valuable than the score of others doing the same thing? The answer, of course, is that it isn't valuable or special. That's not the point. The point is that I love video games and I love talking about them. I just keep that part of me tamped down usually. There is one caveat, that my voice is unique. I'm separating that from the other value judgments because it's true. Even if my specific thoughts aren't unique, it could be the way I state them or any number of things, along with either references that I enjoy or unintentional thumbprints on my work from creators I admire. The video will be split into 2 parts that will be a spoiler-free review and a spoiler-heavy analysis. I specify spoiler-free because I find it fun to go into something I've been told I would enjoy while knowing as little as possible. If what you see interests you, at any point, I strongly encourage you to go check out the game before watching. Anyway, without further ado, a Cronos: The New Dawn review. Cronos: The New Dawn is a title developed and published by Bloober Team, released September 5th, 2025 for Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X or S, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Cronos: The New Dawn, hereafter dropping its subtitle, is a third-person survival horror shooter. It wears its gameplay inspirations plainly, and it's easy to say it looks a lot like Dead Space or an early Resident Evil game. While that may be true, I never had the thought that I'd rather be playing one of those. It marks itself different in gameplay enough that it feels truly its own thing, and the story, to me, lands better than any Dead Space, and with nowhere near the amount of camp present in a Resident Evil. The story could most be likened to a Silent Hill, but it feels more grounded than any I've played. The story premise is thus. You are ND3576, whom everyone calls the Traveler. You are woken up in a dodecahedron by a voice that gives you a personality test before telling you to find your predecessor, ND3500. You shoot your way out of your D12 and go for a walk. This first foray into the environment of the game is great. It gives excellent visuals and enough time to start sorting through all of the proper nouns they throw at you in the opening. Traveler, collective, vocation, and many more. Over the course of my journey, I never fully understood a lot of these terms. Some get definitions, and others remain silhouettes, giving you ideas without knowing their full depth. I perceived that as purposeful, for the dual purpose that the unknown is scarier, and that it's just not the point. Part of me would love to know exactly what the collective is, but if the game thought it was important to tell me, they would have. The game also does an excellent job of onboarding you for what to expect in this opening segment. You're told to mantle, what a safe room looks like, and the basics of looking through an environment to find your way forward. As tension grows, you find your first enemy. A little further on and you find your first tool. Its primary use is for moving platforms in the environment. The secondary use lets you regenerate explosive barrels, which gives arenas a layer of depth. Not long after that, you are taught about the enemies. After that, find another element that makes combat unique, a flamethrower. The flamethrower is not an equipable weapon, it's a combat utility. Its use is for giving you breathing room in tense moments and burning bodies. Then... The game builds a lot of good atmosphere as it teaches you the ropes. When the title card drops, it feels definitively that the game has begun. I haven't gone as far as analyzing the percentage of time spent in combat and exploration, but if I were to weigh the two out, it feels as though exploration stands just ahead of combat. It's a gorgeous world to explore, too, if you can ignore the collections of flesh. And explore I did, to mixed results. The side paths were, generally, find a tucked-away area, collect goodie, fight an enemy as I return to the main path. While these diversions were usually repetitious, the upgrade materials, lore, and other bonuses kept me searching for them. I really enjoy the places you visit. A standout example to me was a snowed-in city, and it's just peaceful and eerie quiet. I think the joy of exploring the environments is that they feel both unique and maintain a level of realism without draining the color out of them. Control came to mind as I was thinking about this. Despite going for brutalist architectural style, it's never dull. For the most part, environments in Cronos are going to be about what you expect out of a location, but it never feels like a hindrance. And there's always other stuff going on that keeps you on your toes. Like enemies. Let's talk enemies. Cronos calls them orphans. There are 4 types of orphans you will see the most of, but these types have variants with different amounts of health and damage to deal. A primary feature in combat is that enemies will attempt to merge with a corpse. If you allow it, they will merge into a more dangerous variant. This increases the complexity of arena fights and moving through open areas. As a fight drags on, you have to be careful of reinforcements merging while your back is turned. During exploration, the bodies all look alive, but won't react if you shoot them. The counter for this is the aforementioned flamethrower. This burns bodies during fights and wakes up any orphans that are playing possum. The enemy group compositions and arena layouts never felt like retreads. If Cronos had been a longer game, it might have suffered from the lack of variety. But between these fights and the handful of other enemies you fight, I think it struck the nail on the head. The actual method of dispatching these enemies is, of course, gun. Your reliable guns are named after melee weapons, but shoot vicious projectiles. Every weapon has such a satisfying sound. They also can't fire too many times before they need to be reloaded. To make that ammo last longer, however, there is a charge mechanic. Holding down the trigger gives off visual distortions and charges the weapon for a ton of extra damage. The time spent charging gives just enough time in most situations to line up your shot. While most weapons have this mechanic, there are also automatic, for those who would prefer. Your last options are your fist and boot. Those two are really only worth using as a last resort. I used them on occasion to finish off enemies, but the balancing of loot meant that it never really gave me an advantage by saving bullets. This game keeps an excellent resource balance, to its detriment at times. It truly strives to keep you within a certain range of supplies. There were times when I was doing spectacularly in using minimal bullets and finishing enemies with melee or flamethrower, but the supply crates that usually drop ammunition, first aid patches, or currency can drop nothing. It felt strange that by playing well, I was only rewarded with a smashed box. It felt so bizarre every time it happened. Setting aside the empty boxes, there were a handful of times I frantically swapped between weapons to find myself empty on all fronts, quickly crafting my own to continue the fight until I could continue scrounging. These kinds of encounters were rare and equally thrilling. Immediately afterward, the supplies I would find brought me back to relative safety. On my second playthrough, on the unlocked hard mode, this balance felt about the same. On my third playthrough, I was playing on normal while using the more bullet-hungry guns, and I felt like I was squeaking by through a lot more of the game, even while trading in the upgrade materials for currency to buy ammo. Your currency is energy. Your other resources are cores and crafting materials. Energy you get from picking up around the map, which usually comes from batteries and old technology, and you spend it on upgrading weapons or purchasing supplies from the safe room shops. Some energy comes in the form of valuables, which take valuable space in your inventory and need to be sold to a shop. Cores, which also occupy an inventory spot, serve as an upgrade material for your tools, suit, and a crafting recipe. Finally, crafting materials, which are split into chemicals and metal. You can craft either in a menu or by holding a relevant button to craft ammo or a first aid patch. Crafting materials are better kept in reserve for on-the-go crafting. The crafting system acts as an excellent buffer for the resource economy to keep you safer without taking up inventory slots. Upgrades are interesting. Through New Game, I ended with most suit upgrades and no fully upgraded weapons, though part of that's my fault, as I didn't really devote myself to one gun. Even after my third playthrough, I didn't have every weapon fully upgraded, and I'm not sure if a fourth would get me there. Admittedly, if you find the guns you like using, you don't need to upgrade everything unless you're going for all the achievements. I've never loved all-in weapon upgrades like Cronos has. On the off chance you find a go-to weapon later in the game, you're just kind of out of luck. I feel lucky that I enjoyed using the starting pistol so much. And you keep getting guns late enough in the game that it definitely feels like it's nudging you to a New Game Plus, which makes sense for a reason I'll get to in a little bit. There is the slight caveat that towards the end of a playthrough you start accumulating a lot of energy, and the later weapon unlocks have generally a higher base damage. I loved the performances in this game. I think this is what really pulled Cronos together for me. The traveler inside her suit delivers dialogue tone perfect. The mocap actor did an amazing job utilizing the fact you don't get subtle face movements, it's just body language. It's almost exactly how I'd imagine Samus Aran delivering dialogue. The traveler is distant and powerful, but not uncaring. Any dialogue delivered when you're by yourself is contextualized by the logs you find in your travels, left behind by other travelers. In the script, I originally stopped talking about her and her acting here, but the traveler was just so good. Right up until I heard the first dialogue, I had assumed the traveler was a man. 99% of games with this kind of budget that put the main character in a big bulky suit are going to make them a man. Literally the only other character I can think of that fits putting a woman in a suit like this is Samus. So not only did I get the pleasant Metroid twist in the first moments of playing, but I got a good character to go along with it. I was less impressed by how some of the minor characters were written, but the ones with larger roles to play were great. Overall, audio is great in this game. The OST is delightful. I'll let it speak for itself. I've brought them up in passing, but Cronos does indeed have a New Game Plus and hard mode. As of writing, it also has another game mode on the way, but no information about it. New Game Plus lets you keep all weapons, upgrades, resources, and non-key items. One interesting thing that carries over is keypad codes. Learning them once means you can cut visiting entire areas. I really liked this, as it spares a lot of tedium of replaying. I think I have one criticism of New Game Plus. In Cronos, sometimes during a cutscene, you may choose dialogue. If a cutscene contains a dialogue option, you cannot skip it. Even after the choice has been made, and for a second playthrough, I didn't entirely mind, as it let me pick things I didn't before. But for every subsequent playthrough, there are enough of these cutscenes where the lack of a skip makes it tedious. I also have criticisms of hard mode. I chose hard mode for my second playthrough, figuring it would give me a better review experience. I was correct, but also a little let down. I expected the usual. Enemies would take and deal a little more damage, resources might be a little rarer, and general tuning to push the player harder. It was closer to something I'd call normal plus. Given it's unlocked, and you are incentivized to pursue a New Game Plus playthrough rather than start a new one, the upgrades you go into hard mode with bring any difficulty that would have been present much lower. I had hoped for different enemy groupings or changing which enemies were feigning death. The only change I honestly noticed was healthier bosses and some enemies starting at a stronger variant. Coming back to dialogue choices, I found them just about the same as any other game that gives the player an option like, will you help? And the option to say, no, but it means yes, you're going to help. There are only two decisions that ever matter in the game. One is for gameplay and a little bit of story, and the other is just story. There is a valid reason for Cronos to present you with options. It gives you a level of agency. But it's all fake agency. For what it's worth, I do really like the story of Cronos a lot. I think it does interesting things and has interesting characters. It has things to say. Humorously, Bloober Team handled the Silent Hill 2 remake. And as I understand it, is doing the first one as well. Cronos and Silent Hill are similar in that both are usually more concerned about the characters in them than the setting. Not that the setting takes a back seat here. but I think Bluebird Team could have been influenced a tiny bit more from the influential franchise. From the 4 Silent Hills I have played, 1, 2, 3, and Shattered Memories, endings are dependent on your actions. Cronos opts for a single dialogue choice. Much like any not quite there thing, I keep thinking about the what ifs. What if the game had tracked your dialogue and made a choice for you? What if it didn't give you a choice at all and let the game need to be played fully 3 times rather than letting a player save scum 2 endings and then go for the final in a second playthrough? After all, my runtime was halved between my first and second playthrough. I took my time a bit more on my third, but it was still much shorter. What if, even if the dialogue options didn't change anything, they let entirely different scenes play out and let the player get more and more of the characters as people and get their reactions? What ifs are not reality, though. The game I saw was one I enjoyed enough to see through to the end 3 times. I could have stopped after 1 and watched the true ending online. I could have stopped after 2 and just reviewed my footage. I went for a third because I wanted to sit down with the game one more time before I put it on my shelf. Maybe I'll take it back down when something develops with it. But even if it stays on my shelf for the rest of my life, I did really enjoy my time with Cronos. So that's the review. Before we get on to the analysis of the story, I want to talk a bit about the process of writing so far. I have written, edited, and then entirely rewrote the review segment. Even this intermission segment has gone through the same process. This is the most thorough I have ever been about talking about any media. Period. Whether or not Cronos is worth that time is irrelevant. It's about the exercise. And wow, is it an interesting exercise. Spending this much time with anything is something I rarely do. I don't engage in discussions, fandom, theories. I experience a thing, I let it flow through me, see what is left, pick at it, and move on. If something is affecting enough, I will revisit it, usually years or many years later, to see the change in how I perceive it, or to remind myself of the feelings I had felt then. Certainly, there is something of an element of nostalgia, but I always return with a greater understanding. I can understand the language it is speaking better, as I am more fluent. But returning to Cronos this often has been like learning the quirks of an object you interact with every day. The longer you spend with something, more you see its flaws or what makes it great. I hope I have managed to impart some of how I feel about this game, or even creation in general. It is a complicated endeavor, to be sure. I'm going into the analysis portion of this video with the assumption that you have played the game. And although I will probably touch on events of the game and even explain them, I'm more interested in talking about what I got from the events, not the events themselves. So, heavy spoilers and a probably prerequisite of having played it. I have a hard time with themes and metaphors. Often to my detriment, I will take the literal as the final truth. I have stretched my analysis muscle from time to time. Sometimes it seems like a work is laid bare and I can see everything of how it works and it speaks to me. Other times I have to wrangle it, kicking and screaming, chasing down feelings and ways of thinking I am not used to. I think this is a good skill to work, but it does not stop it from being work. Cronos was work. The one upside of my analysis is that I can't really be wrong, It can be extremely telling about me. I can come to strange conclusions that no one else would come to. But this is primarily what I got from Cronos. If someone else doesn't get it, that's how it goes. I mean, I could do it wrong, but hopefully I won't do that. I considered many angles. The technology versus biology as the collective versus the change, as well as technical skills versus emotion, grief, where a line is drawn that says you are human. I think points could be made on all fronts that it's about all of these things. I think for a first go-around at reviewing an analysis, as I don't know if I could make a full argument for any of them, I'll talk for as long as I can about each. The Traveler, our protagonist, is a member of the collective. Our enemies, the orphans, from the change. But they are comparable. Both are singular entities, drawn out from the many. Both use individualized entities to carry out their will. Both stake out footholds. Both have goals that are never clear to us, the player. While we can say the collective wants to collect certain VIP essences, and the change seeks to merge as much biological life as it can, we don't know the end point of either of those goals. When we begin thinking technically minded and are worried about the skills someone brings, how worried are we about the individuality that they bring? Every traveler we hear has an emotionless affect, while every orphan screams and moans. Ruthless efficiency versus blind rage. Two sides of the same coin. Then, us, on the edge. We have humanity, caught between these two extremes and suffering for it. We can see firsthand that neither method of joining is painless. We never see the traveler actually collect an essence. It fades to black before anything gruesome actually appears to us. The change we see in many stages, however. Gabriel Barica is an individual when we see him, but he's in incredible pain. He yearns to be with others, a side effect of the change. Dr. David Sibbert is already attached and combined with others when we see him and extract him, and then it's revealed that it's mostly Angela. When you question her, Zibbert is in there somewhere too. Then, of course, Zibbert's daughter Eliza. She alone makes up the only conscious person or people affected by the change. It's made explicit over the course of the game that neither of these groups care about the out-group. Their only concern is growing their number. Picking just emotion or knowledge will always sacrifice something. As for grief, Veronika Kaminsky is the driving force of the game. She saw something in Pathfinder, something he did not think existed, and it was everything to him. She saw a machine and said, "You're like me." How could that not mean something? He tried to move heaven and earth in order to keep her hope and something of humanity alive, and failed time and time and time again. We see proof of these attempts in the police station. How many more failures are just not there to be seen? How many times has the warden come close to success and failed and had to watch Veronica die anew, not only torturing travelers but himself? With the endings, we see how these paths lead. Killing the warden gives us the scene where Veronica shows up on Edward's doorstep, change already affecting her. I can't quite square this with the events of the game. Even accounting for 2 Veronicas running around, the timeline and infection vectors just don't feel right. I digress. The ending is representative of killing hope. You're killing her, sending her back with the start of the change. The second is the ending I went with on my first playthrough, on instinct. hope. I wanted something to be better about the whole thing, but it wasn't. The ending gives us the warden in exactly the position you found him, with the realization that you are also perpetuating this cycle. I, with an epiphany as I wrote this, realized that the reason a third ending can happen is that Veronica has seen it. And somewhere down the line, that transfers to the Traveler. The third and most ambiguous, but still hopeful ending. The Traveler and Veronica leave together. Most promising, we see the Traveler reach out to a new and hopefully safe Veronica. I find it interesting that the Warden, also a potential traveler along these loops, stays in the cycle. I think he represents grief and circular thinking. When you're trapped in your own suffering, it can just be hard to perceive a way out. Finally, what can we call human life? The Traveler is not, but she was, will be. Veronica was human. When we find her in the Warden's lab, can the same be said? The Pathfinder wasn't, then seen by Veronica as somewhat human. And then the Warden. He plays the piano, wants to make something new, and does. I have always empathized with AI in media, though certainly not the machine learning and large language models companies are determined to pass off as useful. There is a distinction there to me. There have been people who have talked about how so-and-so model is actually intelligent, alive. They're wrong. They're yes machines designed to affirm. But it makes me think, would I have seen the Pathfinder as human? Many of the other scientists didn't see anything human in him. I never once questioned any of the ND as human. ND. New dawn? A new dawn for humanity. I wonder if, given enough time and desperation, Veronica might create the collective in the third ending. I don't think so, but maybe. Time and time again, we see Veronica pushing for any possible hope of continuing humanity, holding on to a single thread that it might get her somewhere. Maybe after long enough of exhausting options, that is where it would lead her. It would certainly lead circuitously back to the start, like the other two endings. I can see where the same person who sees the Pathfinder as human would see the collective as a viable option, not truly losing their humanity. So that's what I got. Want to compare notes? Give me a grade in opinions? I think all these thoughts play nicely with each other. Did I come up with an end statement? Don't be too emotional or too logical, and try to find and mingle with people and recognize their differences. Learn when you need to let go of your grief before you fall into an endless spiral of despair. There is nothing that makes a person inhuman, and to hold on to hope and work towards it with all you have. Those seem like nice enough sentiments to end on, I suppose. So I did the damn thing. I made a review. I made an essay. It feels so good, too. Technically, this part was only written, and now this part is only recorded. I still have to edit it now and then, publish it. But it's a step closer to putting it somewhere. Out of my brain, onto the screen. Even if all my thoughts on the thing came out amateurish, half-baked, or poorly articulated, I still had fun doing it. That's what it's all for, right? If you have something you want to make it. It's worth it. Thank you for watching. It's a Georgia. It's a. It's a. This has got me so bad. Yeah. It's a gorgeous world to explore. Now you're laughing.
Oh, were you supposed to say Georgia?
I was trying to. It's a. So stupid. It's such a dumb joke. It's so good though. I really got the giggles, don't I? I'm just gonna keep recording, and then like when I get it, I'll. Because if I could just get "It's a gorgeous world to explore" too, then I can take it from the comma. It's a. I got so close. It's a gorgeous. It's a gorgeous world too.
The way it absolutely sends you.
It's a gorgeous. It's a gorgeous. Fuck. It's a gorgeous world to explore too.